Do you hate your job? Would you like to be rich beyond your wildest dreams? Then take absolutely no advice from us, as we're talking Office Space on this episode of that song from that movie. Yeah.
Boy.
I wasn't looking for that, but okay, I'll take it. Thank you for joining that song from that movie, the journey through the very best and worst of movie songs. I am your no one in this country can ever pronounce my name right host, Dietrich. And joining us, as always, is the man who would not be seen dead without at least 37 pieces of flair, Alex.
Nice.
Yeah, I always carry the buttons.
When I think of flair, I think of Alex.
Oh, that's nice.
Big Chapel Roan fan.
Big Chapel Road, man.
We're topical on this podcast. We're topical.
One song she has. It's not a good time to be a Chapel Roan fan, is it? Because she.
No, she's been cancelled again. But you know that's how these things work. You get incredibly popular. It's Icarus. Yeah. Look at Boris Johnson.
Sure.
The Chappelle Roan, Boris Johnson comparison, the well-trodden comparison there.
It's a well-walked road.
Right, anyway, and completing the lineup is someone who looks like he has a real case of the Mondays, Ben.
There's a thing at work where someone stuck it up of like things I hate, and you write things on it. And I wrote this week anyone who says have a case of the Mondays, or also people who say it's Friday.
Oh yeah, God. It's up there with like Holly Bobs and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, Holly Bobs was on there just before it as well.
Wait, was that on the list because people hate holidays, or they hate the term
No,
Hollybobs?
people hate the term Holly Bobs.
Right, okay, good.
Right.
You were potentially saying a toxic work environment there when nobody likes someone who goes on holiday.
No one likes holidays. Yeah, the management keeps writing it down.
Isn't it weird how we just all hate holidays?
Every time we come in on a morning, someone's crossed out all the other stuff.
It says like we all hate people that leave on time.
Yeah, God, I hate a 4-day week. Those Swedes don't know what they're doing.
I would like to know in the past fortnight, what have you been watching?
Films.
It's been a lot longer than a fortnight.
Yeah, a lot longer than a fortnight. So there's no excuses then. What you must have some big films to watch. Go on, Alex. You go. Yeah, Alex. You always go first. Go on.
Do I always go first?
You always go
We're
first.
always patterned in this. Yeah.
Well, I've only seen one new film.
One new film in like 5 weeks.
Period. I've been around. Yeah. And it's a film that Dee has already discussed on this podcast, but I watched the new Planet of the Apes film. New-ish, I guess. It's not new anymore.
What did you think?
I thought it was fine. I think it's got to the point now where it's just like, does this need to go on? It's run its course. I think my problem with it is that the original Planet of the Apes works on the idea that you don't actually necessarily need to fill in the gap between what happened. You can kind of work out apes took over, probably through some kind of means, who knows, and they did it. And then someone thought it was interesting to fill in that gap a bit, which is fine, because it's like, okay, what was that trigger moment, you know, and that's kind of what we see in the first few films. It feels like this one, they've kind of gone quite a bit further into the future, and it's just like, it's still like kind of happening, and it's like, it's the part in between now where like war ended and this one, and then the original Planet of the Apes is just kind of inconsequential, I feel now. So I just feel they need to stop.
It's not a prequel though. It's no longer a prequel.
It's time to stop.
It's not leading up to Planet of the Apes. It's just its own thing. Is that what they're saying?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So now it's just its own self-contained continuity from Rise through to Kingdom.
Its own thing. Okay. Well, that makes a bit more sense, I suppose. But it just felt like we hadn't gone very far up in this, like between. It feels like we had these 3 films that kind of led to a moment, and then now we've got a bit in the future. Things are still kind of the same. Personally, I think it should end now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that your one cinematic experience was worthwhile.
Well, no, because I did go to the cinema, but it was to see a compilation of episodes of Bluey. So,
well, nothing can compete with that. The Citizen Kane of the modern times.
What did your kids think when you came back and you hadn't taken them?
Well, they were a bit upset. And I was a bit disappointed because I'd already seen all the episodes. There weren't any newer ones.
It was weird that it was BYOB. Alex took it the wrong thing. It was supposed to be baby, and he took a 4-pack.
Well, yeah, no, actually, it was supposed to be Bring Your Own Bluey, but I misinterpreted that as well.
I'm trying to think what I've seen now. I saw a very good horror film called Long Legs with Nicolas Cage.
Was it actually? Sure, that wasn't.
Is it actually good?
It is good. It is good. It really is good. It's very, very scary. I saw Inside Out 2, which is pretty good. I saw Deadpool 3, which I thought was pretty good. Probably the first Marvel film I've enjoyed in a long time. So, Long Legs is definitely the peak. The annoying thing is, the film is slightly ruined by the fact Nicolas Cage is in it because he's Nicolas Cage at times. When he starts, just doing his, screaming, and you're just like, oh, that's... I bet they didn't even have that in the script.
That's him improvising.
Would you give Nicolas Cage a script? Would you not just, say, this is the vibe?
Yeah.
Run with it.
Well, I think what they've basically done is said, Silence of the Lambs, be that guy. And not Hannibal Lecter, the other guy. The would you fuck me guy.
Yes, he puts the lotion in the basket. That guy.
Yeah. D, what have you watched?
So, between the Olympics, the Paralympics, seeing Taylor Swift live, going on holiday to Greece, I have only also watched Deadpool 3, as in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I thought it was alright. It was fine. I felt like I had to go see the cinema to avoid finding out what happens, seeing as everyone's online chomping at the bit to spoil every film that comes out. It was okay. I wish I'd have waited just to watch on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I don't say that about anything nowadays. Has he been? You know what? He needs to be cancelled now. I'm fed up of him.
Which one?
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Well, well, his wife is already being cancelled at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But why can't she just drag him down?
By association.
She's been absolutely terrible recently. And I also don't want fucking Wrexham in the Championship.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna fucking happen, isn't it?
Then we have to see Leeds get beaten by them in the documentary.
Oh no, yeah, that's gonna happen, innit? Oh.
Yeah, you're watching the documentary and it'll cut to the crowd and you'll see Alex sticking twos up.
With his 4-pack.
I want Bluey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Time to get your .com... Try again. Time to get your .com boom books whilst they're hot, because we're breaking down the office space... No, we're breaking... Oh, try that again. Try to get your .com boom books whilst they're hot, because we're breaking down office space and its songs. Oh, I put too many syllables in that.
Yeah, it's just a mouthful.
That is a tongue twister, isn't
anyway,
it? Wow, yeah.
So to find out what's happening in the world when the movie came out.
Time for some history.
Yes, we're going back to a long time ago, a different century. February 1999. Do you remember it well?
No, not well.
Me neither. Yeah, what was I been doing? So we're all about 8, aren't we?
8 years old, yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably watching David Hopkin play for Leeds United. Or Bruno Ribeiro.
Okay, we're just going to throw in as many layers here. Alfred Ingerland.
Yeah. Gunnar Haller.
Yeah. Clyde Wynard.
This is going to be fun for listeners.
He once refused to sign an autograph for me and Frankie and Benny's.
He's just there to have pizza then.
Yeah. I honestly think that any reason I've got sort of performance anxiety is because of that moment when he refused me. He set my professional career back 5 years. I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, February 1999, a quiet month for film. Or was it? Because I'm about to give you 3 films that I am sure you have never seen. And after this, you'll be racing to the cinema to find them. And by cinema, I mean the illegal market on the internet. The first was a little film called Murder Cycle.
Let's see where this is going.
In which where do you think it's going? Where do you think Murder Cycle is going to go?
Well, I'm thinking of like a suburban Mad Max.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that'd be great.
Good.
That'd be great. Now, so here we go. Listen, the first 3 words are going to refute that. A meteor falls to Earth near a secret. A meteor falls to Earth near a secret CIA military hideout and merges with a motorcycle and its rider to create an alien soldier bent on recovering an artifact.
Sounds like you were pretty close there, Alex.
Yeah.
So rather, than this meteor killing this person, it just merges with them. Next film, which I think was actually a decent film, but I don't remember it, Net Force. But the premise is, I just think is fantastic. Set in the future, 2005, a division of the FBI called NetForce has been initiated to investigate internet crime. A Bill Gates-type character finds a loophole in his new web browser which enables him to gain control of the internet. So I think that's very early days of what people assumed was how the internet was going to work.
Yeah, it sounds like that bit in the first Mission Impossible when he's trying to figure out the password, and it's like, I don't think the people understand how the internet works.
And he just guesses it. He gets it right. God, how do we do hacking? No, you just guess the password. And finally, starring Corey Haim, R.I.P., Demolition University, in which college students on a field trip encounter terrorists planning to poison the city's water supply. So these children... It looks quite serious. I thought it might be lighthearted because they were fairly young. No.
And in turn, that makes it into a Mad Max-style suburban area. I mean, Alex predicted all 3 movies.
I like it. Crossover.
What are you going to go for there? What are you going to go for? You're going to go for Motorcycle? You're going to go for NetForce or Demolition University?
I think Motorcycle.
Motorcycle. Yeah, Motorcycle.
It's just the name, isn't it? It's just the name. I couldn't find a trailer, but I'm sure it's out there. People, please send us it. And apparently another film came out in February 1999, which was Office Space. Unfortunately, Motorcycle, no song. I heard Sting was in the running, but, here we are. For those unaware, Office Space is a 1999 satirical comedy written and directed by Mike Judge, creator of the likes of Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, and Silicon Valley, and stars the likes of Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston, and Gary Cole in a meme-defining role.
I was about to say, Gary Coleman's not in this. But you did stuff.
Yeah.
What you talking about?
What a living meme he was. The film itself focuses on corporate drone Peter Gibbons stuck in a soul-crushing job for software firm Innertech. However, one day while undergoing hypnotherapy, his therapist dies mid-session, leaving him in a head state where he no longer cares about what happens to him at work. So, we've all watched this film. What do we think?
I like to think, and hopefully you can back me up here, that I'm not alone in hearing more about this movie's existence than actually knowing anything about what the movie actually entails.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a single clue what it was about, other than, like, I suppose, late 90s office culture. As in the bit at the beginning of the first Matrix, with the phone.
Yes.
And the FedEx.
Yes, yeah.
So going into this, I wasn't really sure how it was going to translate into a plot, because late 90s office culture isn't really a plot. So what anyone, I suppose in this case you, Ben, should have told me is that Office Space is like falling down, but stealing money and not caring about your job rather than like ever-escalating violence.
Yeah. It has got aspects of sort of commentary, hasn't it?
Yeah, and because of my weirdly well-documented love of falling down on this podcast, I really enjoyed this movie too.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm not sure if it's one of those things where, unless you've worked that sort of shitty, soul-destroying, brain-rotting, day-to-day existence of office life, like maybe this movie wouldn't hit. But I know, for me, I've certainly lived that horrible life. And I've 100% thought, how could I fuck over this company? I know I could, but how would I do it? Sidebar, obviously, I never did, or this podcast would be wildly more successful and probably on BBC Sounds. But I dreamt about it, and this movie let me vicariously live out those fantasies without the possibility of jail time. So, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
That's a 5-star film if ever I've heard one.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway, though, from this film is that there are so many references in other media to this that
it's mad, isn't it?
It was like watching like a tapestry of other shows. Like, obviously, the most famous one I can think off the top of my head is Family Guy, but like there is so many, and like memes online just generally of like I'm going to need you to whatever.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it is literally that.
Calling
people ass clowns.
The chokehold this film has on like script writers from the late noughties, early 10s is ridiculous. It was like finding out about a whole new world. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the film, and I was sort of going to Kate going, do you want to watch it? I'll happily watch it again.
It's always a good sign if you want to watch it again.
Yeah.
What about you, Al?
My impression was less positive than that. But I didn't dislike the film. I think it was fine. I wasn't that bothered for it, to be honest with you. I think I was struggling to really hone in on what it was. It wasn't really like a laugh out loud comedy. It was funny, but it wasn't very funny. And then it also wasn't that deep either. Like, I was trying to, so it's like, you know, the points it was making, I thought were just like a bit, I think the whole thing was just like a bit obvious, but maybe that's watching it now in retrospect rather than maybe at the time. Maybe at the time it felt fresh. It didn't feel very fresh, but maybe that's to do with what you said, Dee. Maybe too many people have ripped it off and it's become less fresh. But I thought it was fine, and it was an enjoyable film, but I didn't really get much from it beyond that. I just didn't think there was much to it, personally. Yeah. And maybe I'm not as into the meme culture. I did recognise a lot of the things, like the guy with the kind of, who's more dressed like an 80s, like Wall Street man. I've seen him in many memes. Yeah. And obviously the scene from Family Guy with the photocopier, which I enjoyed. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I just didn't really. I wasn't that bothered for it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it did feel very. I know, like what you said, Dee. Like, I've also worked these kind of similar office jobs, and I got the mind numbingness of it all. But to me, this did feel more like American. Like, it felt like, is it controversial to say that it's horrible to work in one of these offices? I feel like it's kind of, everyone knows it. I just didn't feel like it was saying anything important. I felt like it was saying something that we're all aware of, and it's like the shame of it actually is that there almost is no release, where actually kind of finds that in the end, and maybe that's positive for the film. But I don't know. I just didn't. I wasn't that bothered. I've kind of rambled around the same point there a lot, I know. But I think that's kind of how I felt about the film.
I think generally it gets described as a black comedy because it isn't laugh out loud. I think it's just that comedy of reality. And I think that's where it's just like slightly skewed off what, I think, like you say, of the time, what, late 90s, early 90s, it's a large part of middle America would have experienced this. And it's I think, like Dee was saying, it's the playing out those slight fantasies of just ridiculousness.
Yeah, I think
it's not completely over the top, but it's just...
But I think it is, though. I think that's the problem. I think, like, it goes into a very silly space quite quickly. Yeah. It's not laugh out loud funny, but the situations are silly. It's not like watching The Office, for instance, like the UK Office, where it like literally nails this idea. Yeah. And is much drier, and the humour is in the naturalistic presentation of it. This isn't naturalistic, so it kind of it's also not it's not too surreal, or it's not too real. It's in a weird space in the middle. It's in an office space in the middle, and I think that's kind of where, for me, it just doesn't go either way enough. So it's kind of it just fits in this weird space where I was kind of like, I get what it's trying to do, but I just wasn't, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't hate it, but I just wasn't sure exactly what it was. I think, like, from the beginning I was a bit unsure about it, if that makes sense. So I do think it's a good film, and I can see that it's obviously inspired a lot of things that have come after it, but I don't think I would be that bothered to watch it again, unlike you, Dee.
Yeah, I think there may be an Americanized aspect of it, but it is like seen as the go-to kind of office drama comedy, I guess. Like, if you're wanting something to describe that, the banality of sort of existing in lower middle management, or even just being a complete grunt. I do think it captures that aspect quite well. And I do think Mike Judge is a very good writer. I do think I think the characters are quite funnily designed. I mean, I'm a big fan of, like, King of the Hill and Silicon Valley. And it is Idiocracy, which is his other film. But I find the characters amusing in themselves. I do think there's other films like this, in that it's a very film of its time. And there's aspects of it I think wouldn't age. I think if you were, say, the younger generation than us and watched it, I think you would enjoy even less of it. And the next generation after that will enjoy it even less, and so on. A lot like, I think it's films like, let me think, like Breakfast Club or High Fidelity. I think as every generation goes on, there's an aspect of those films that is lost because they're very odd, because they're describing a particular aspect of life that is completely different now. or even for like us who are like, I guess, getting into films in like the late 90s, early 90s, films like American Pie, which, or like Not Another Teen Movie or anything like that, where it's showing aspects of what life was like, even for us in England, of what America was like, which is just so completely different now. And I think as time goes on, Office Space to me is an example of a film that was very much a cult film, has kept a lot of traction, but will just lose it over time and eventually will go into obscurity.
Yeah. Well, even just like the sort of office setup, like the idea of having an office space is not really a thing anymore. You're more likely to find open plan offices where there's banks of desks and people attempt to work collaboratively. So even just like the core visual aspect of the film is dying.
And the classic sort of water cooler chat.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's just not like that anymore. The kind of consistency of people going out for a cigarette, with how things change with that, everything changes. But I do enjoy it, and at rewatching it, I still enjoyed it. But again, I think as someone who probably has engaged a lot with meme culture over the years, I think there's still a bit of I'm being very meta here by using a meme to reference a meme. It's the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Leo staring at the thing of like, oh look, it's that thing again. It's that thing again. Yep. That's the thank you for doing the click. I can exactly. That's perfect in a audio medium. Anything else you want to say before I move on?
I just like to extend that kind of point you were making. I think aesthetically, there is a lot about it that won't last. But I mean, I think thematically, it still holds true today. This idea of being part of a workforce that lacks motivation, doesn't understand the reasoning behind why they're doing certain things. They're working for somebody else, they're not working for themselves, and that's kind of the way it presents the American workforce in this film. And I think that still holds true for a lot of people today. I suppose it's the environment that's changed, but the themes are still the same. But I guess my point was that in terms of, it felt like it was making a serious point, but I never truly made it. Like, what is, if you compare it to other films around this time, like The Matrix, like Dee said, or like something like Fight Club, where the idea of this kind of institutionalized situation where people are kind of just put in these boxes and have to just live these lives of boredom, essentially. I think in those two films you see a more extreme way out, and they kind of I don't know. I feel like they go further into kind of like delving into this idea, whereas I think this was like, it was quite surface level, I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, this is the man who created Beavis and Butthead. I think he exists on a surface level.
Yeah, but it also wasn't like, because Beavis and Butthead is quite gross out comedy, isn't it? So it's loud comedy. This was subdued still. So it was like surface level but subdued, and I think it was. I don't think there are many films that are like this where they're clearly meant to be comedies, clearly trying to make a point, but they're not silly. They're not too straight. They're sort of in this weird middle liminal space.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when you start with reality. Like, I think like Mike Judge said, he based it on a lot from his own, because he worked in Silicon Valley in the early days and was like, oh, this character's like this person I met in real life, and then I guess you just accentuate rather than coming up with just kind of an outlandish character. Even the Milton character, who is very of an unusual stereotype and almost feels like a MacGuffin in himself, is apparently based on someone who he actually worked with. So I think there's that aspect of it where he is very much trying to keep pinning it in reality, but I think because he's quite a creative type, it keeps pulling him away to these outlandish scenes that we have, and I can understand why that can be jarring when he's going back and forth, and you don't really know where are you wanting to sit.
Yeah, I will say with the Matrix and the Fight Club comparison, I feel like with those films, they're quite intricate, whereas I feel like this film almost leans into the sort of idea of, it's almost like somebody daydreaming an idea of how to get back at a company. Like, they haven't thought about the idea, like how things are going to work. They've just gone, I don't know, a pizza guy turns up and he knows how to do something with money laundering. Like, none of the pieces fit together. It's almost like a stoner film without being like the core part of the film.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It feels like a lot of those kind of stoner films of the noughties are very much like leaning on this idea. I think because even like his expression once he like kind of goes through that therapeutic moment, he almost looks stoned the entire film. Yeah,
that is the trying the way of trying to play it cool, isn't it? But that also, I think, to come into talking about music, I think there's also a lot of references to try to link it up to the music that was being played as well. Anyway, So when Office Space was first being created, it was one of those many films that found its way into development hell. Mike Judge, the director, didn't like any of the actors, who auditioned, and he was pushed by 20th Century Fox at the time, despite a very restrained budget, to get bankable stars. He was pushed to get Ben Affleck and Matt Damon because they had just done, this is them just finishing Good Will Hunting, so this is them absolute hot shit. He didn't want any big names and appeased the studios by getting Jennifer Aniston, who apparently didn't have a clue about what the film was, came in for a few days, did her scenes and left. That allowed him to go into, I guess, some more nuanced options for the main roles. The film was released in what is considered the dumping ground of cinema, which is the February months. Nobody releases good films in February. When it was released, it made $12.2 million on a $10 million budget. Not great. As we've all said before, you kind of need to be making double.
Double, yeah.
But as we know, the film became a huge cult hit. I think in particular, it was, Comedy Central or Paramount or whatever it was called back in the early 2000s, got the rights and played it repeatedly, and the viewing figures were growing consistently week after week. It did fantastic on DVD and VHS sales. Just love saying VHS sales. We're of that time. The critics loved it at the time. Our resident favourite, Roger Ebert, gave it 3 out of 4. And the film slowly gained traction. It wasn't re-released, but it started to gain this popularity. Many aspects of the film have had a life of their own. We've talked about the printer smashing scene, and we'll go on to talk about it even more. There's a huge amount of parody in the film. Dee, you already mentioned something that we were all very aware of when we were younger, the Family Guy scene.
Yeah.
Bill Lumbergh was a common meme with the, I'm going to have to ask you to... and apparently, like I say, ass clown became a very popular insult, especially in America in the early 2000s. I think is it Michael Bolton's character? I think it is, yeah. I mean, just like that, like just the whole joke of having a character whose name is Michael Bolton. So the reason on this podcast, obviously, we are talking about Office Space is because there are 2 songs used in this which have become quite synonymous and quite famous, both associated with the film and the life afterwards. So we are going to talk about the legendary, influential, and also controversial Houston-based rap group Geto Boys, who have 2 songs used in this film, Still and Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster. So, the Geto Boys, their main 3 lineup of the likes of, gotta love some rap group names, Willie D, Bushwick Bill, and what it actually is, the very famous, great lyricist Scarface. Have you ever watched the NPR Tiny Desks on YouTube? You know, the concerts. Have you ever seen them?
I know of them.
People do like famous people like singing in like a book, like almost like a library.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of stripped back. Scarface did one this year, and it's actually really good. As you can probably assume, Mike Judge has spoken quite a lot that there was a ridiculous amount of executive influence in this film, or at least trying to be. Various producers were trying to, add this into the film, get a bankable star, have, a good movie song, anything that helps push it. They did not like the idea of having gangster rap used in this film. The producers told Mike Judge he had to take it out. Mike Judge said, as a potential agreement or negotiation, he would take it out if the first focus group, no one liked it. And apparently one young man in that focus group said that the fact that the characters working in an office but listened to gangster rap was one of the best things he liked about the movie. So the producers relented.
That's got stooge written all over it.
I love the idea that it's a plant. It's like a plant. It's just Mike Judge in the back with a Beastie Boys-esque voice.
Yeah, a backwards cab.
Yeah. But yes, possibly one of the most famous memed scenes in the film comes accompanied with the use of Geto Boys' song Still, in which 3 of our main characters begin to slowly, in almost video game gangster mafia fashion, begin to lay into a printer in the middle of a field and absolutely smash it to pieces while the song still plays over the top. What do you think of this song, the scene, the infamy around it?
I mean, I enjoyed the scene. I think it's probably one of the best scenes of the films. I think the two parts of this film that stuck out, just to go back to another part, is I really enjoyed the bit when they Dr. Cox's character, I can't remember his name, other than the guy from Scrubs.
Yeah, the middle management guy.
Yeah, him and the other guy are interviewing them all, and then he comes in and does his interview, and they really that's when they start promoting him to that upper management position. And I thought that bit was really funny. And then this scene was also, it feels when you're watching it, this is the iconic moment of the film, because it's just the way it's shot and everything. It feels like it's shot like a music. It's kind of from the perspective of the photocopier, I guess. It's from the ground. Yeah. It just has a very distinctive look about it. I think it's really stands out, and it's quite comical. When he if I remember, because it's been a month or so now since I watched it. I felt there's a part where he trips over it or something, or
he does. he does the classic thought of where they're walking away and rushes back to give him one last sort of few kicks and leave him, man, leave him. It's that kind of classic.
Yeah,
and I think he actually punches it with his fist. How angry must you be to punch broken pieces of computer?
Yeah, it does work. It works really, really well. I can't actually remember the music over it. I think I was just too engrossed in the visuals. I know it's the same. I think it's the same song that's used in the scene in Family Guy as well.
It is.
But
it is, yeah, it is.
I can't actually remember. I remember the other song that we're going to talk about from the film, but I can't actually remember what the music was in this.
You have the breakdown, which is a very sort of slow, almost electronic beat. The bass is quite removed, especially for gangster rap at the time. And I think the thing that stands out most is there's when they hit the printer, the sound of the baseball bat hitting it or whatever is replaced with gunshots.
Yeah,
every time they hit. So it's I guess supposed to be that, that drive-by aspect, I suppose. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. I feel like it's the best bit of the film. It's definitely the standout moment of the film. The song does sort of get lost in the background as just sort of almost a generic late 90s hip-hop. But yeah, the scene is fantastic. The bit when he jumps on it, it definitely cuts to a different take where he doesn't fall over, right?
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely goes flying when he jumps on
I want to see the behind the scenes where he absolutely face plants, and they should have kept it in the film.
Yeah, probably does. I mean, it still looks pretty embarrassing, but...
I mean, there was the problem, obviously, that the photocopier seemingly comes back together.
Repaired a bit.
Yeah, which completely ruined the film for me.
Yeah, took you out of it.
Obviously, we're going to talk about another song, which is just a better song, but this is the better scene.
And it's weird, so it feels even weird to say it for some reason, but I've listened to a lot of Geto Boys over the years. Which is I feel just an odd sentence to say. And this is not a very, I think, famous song. It's only well known because of Office Space. And I mean, Geto Boys, they are sort of quintessential 90s gangster rap. They're famous for it in that they have a lot of songs that are quite typically terrible, as is custom with gangster rap, in the sense of very misogynistic, talking about sort of fantastic drug culture, how amazing it is to go by and shoot someone and whatever. But they also were one of the first sort of groups to rap about things that no one else had rapped about, in the sense that they used to rap about mental health. There's a few songs and really good songs. They talk about psychosis and actually being scared as a gangster and how it kind of can really affect them and the impacts it has. So they were kind of doing things different at the time. But this song is not one of them. It comes from their 5th studio album, which was called Resurrection. It was their only top 10 album in the US. It is an album about raging against the powers that be and censorship. They are not an artist or group that you would listen to in an office space, because their language is very blue, shall we say. Which I think is why just the Geto Boys in general were picked for the film, and especially this scene, because it's the contrast with these white collar workers playing this is just in the middle of the field is fantastic. Tim Sørstedt, who was the cinematographer for the scene, said that it was largely improvised, which makes sense. They looks like they are just kind of doing whatever they want. Ajay Naidu, who played Samir, said that they were trying to do it in a way that evoked how the mafia would do a hit on someone.
Oh yeah, that definitely came across.
Yeah, absolutely. And they said they tried to make it like, you know, there's something personal about it. You know, they want to punish this person, so it's not like they're going in for the kill straight away. You know, they're slowly beating him down. I think it was Livingston's character said that he played his role like the Don, you know, circling behind them while the grunts struck the blows with the bat and the feet and the fists. So Ajay Naidu said that years later, I think this was an interview he did at a con, he said he met some actual mafiosos in New York who told him they were huge fans of the film and loved the scene because they thought it was authentic. So is that not the greatest praise that you want?
Yeah, I suppose.
100%.
Someone come up to you, yeah, I've done that exact thing. I mean, not with a copier, but, you know, with a schmuck. So Willie D, who co-wrote the song, said that the song is about continuing to unapologetically ride on your enemies, which I always think is a funny way to put it. So he did an interview with Time magazine in 2017, and he said he loves the film. He absolutely loves Office Space, loves the use of it. Apparently their sales skyrocketed after the film. He quoted about the film saying, they felt it was an unfair workplace and it was all about bucking the system and saying, fuck this. And we ain't having no more and going at it. And that was the mentality of the Geto Boys. So, you know, there we go. It's just perfect. Mike Judge did well. So the other song we wanted to cover, which is definitely the more famous song, even if it's from a less famous scene, is the song Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster, which comes from a Geto Boys compilation album and plays over when Peter comes into work and slowly begins to dismantle the place without a care in the world, finding his true joy away from the monotony. He does things such as he knocks down his partition wall so he can see out the window. At one point, he's gutting a fish on the table, which I still don't quite get. He just steals a drill and starts breaking through doors and walls. What do you think about the song, this scene?
Of the two songs, this is definitely the stronger of the two songs. It's definitely the one that stands on its own as the better song. I do like the scene, even though I feel like the other scene is the iconic scene. I do like this scene, and I feel like the song does fit this scene quite well. It encapsulates that sort of fuck work vibe that I obviously had for so long. Sort of going back to what you were saying about like the use of sort of rap and hip hop in sort of like a middle America movie. I feel like I have many times listened to things like this whilst driving up to speak to people about car insurance. So I don't understand how this song, for example, would not fit that. It seems perfect for someone as white as myself to be listening to.
Yeah, I think it's got to feel like it's sort of like a dichotomy in how different it is, but something you could still connect with and still understand. So it's not completely ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, that is why, you know, I've done that, and still understanding why that is quite funny for these, yes, very pasty men to be singing this song. Alex, what do you think?
General agreement, you know, it's the better song, the less good scene, but still, you know, it's still fine. I think the song lyrically works with the scene, not just because of the reasons Dee said, but I think as well because I've just been reading through them, and like the whole concept of the song is about not being showy or being flashy. It's about being kind of sure of yourself. And I guess like in this moment, the character is just kind of is so sure of himself and the position he now has and the mental state that he now has that he just does what he kind of feels like doing, but not for anybody else, just for himself, kind of. And that's kind of
any favorite lyrics, Alex?
Well, you know. Well, I mean,
not many we can repeat.
Not many we can repeat, but to hit home the point, I'm gonna paraphrase the lines. Obviously, real gangsters don't start fights. Real gangsters don't flex nuts. So you know these two things kind of show that it's just more about just being yourself. You know, not going out there and causing trouble necessarily, but you know, just being true to who you are. And I think that's kind of what is happening in the scene, and I like it for that. I don't think the song does. It just all works well, doesn't it? It's just the idea. It's the same idea as you said, like almost like a middle finger, but it's kind of in a way that's not aggressive. It's just kind of I'm just doing my own thing, and if you don't like it, well, that's on you, kind of thing.
Middle finger in the air as you're walking away.
Yeah,
it is one of those songs. It's quite hilarious. I think sometimes how it's like, yeah, I get the point, but I think it is still quite funny some of the ways they try and talk about it. For example, I cannot say the lyric, but there's a bit where in the song where they say like gangsters don't run for shit, and that's not because they're like hard. He says no, gangsters can't run for shit because generally real gangsters can't run very fast.
Yes,
and it's just like And I love that line because it's like, it's not this like we're not really hard. It's just we're not very good. We're not very athletic. And I think it's just that ridiculousness. But I think the song itself, I think, is really well written. Like I say, Scarface I think is a very good lyricist.
Jesus.
But yes, so the song was not. It came out. So this came out in 1992. So much earlier than Still and Resurrection, which came out very close to Office Space. But it was an unreleased track originally, so the song comes from a compilation album originally. So they didn't think this was worthy of their earlier albums. But when the album was released, it was usually previous material that a previous record company had held. They'd got the rights to their own songs, so put out their songs again, and then added 2 brand new songs, one of which was Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster. Scarface has said a few times, like, because of that film, we had a lot more success, made bank, various things like that. There was various articles, I think still written, I think when it was the 20th anniversary, I guess 5 years ago for Office Space, various articles were talking about, like, it's one of the great examples of just sort of tongue-in-cheek in films, of just quite an easy way of, using gangster rap to show the rebellion of the white-collar worker. And just, I guess, how goofy they do it. I don't know if this scene necessarily is as goofy as the one when Still is used, but still, it feels like it's all in good fun. And generally, I think a lot of gangster rap historically gets a bad rap, I guess a bit like drill music, but this makes fun of it and just makes a lightness to it, which I think is pretty good. And even the song is a lot lighter, a bit like Express Yourself by NWA or something like that, which is completely different to all their very aggressive songs, and all of a sudden you've just got this lighter song, and that's something that can be a bit more accessible, and I do think it is very well used in the film. Tell me, Dee, in your life as working in an office, have you ever gutted a fish at your desk?
Good question.
No,
not a fish.
Don't tell... What? Yeah, you just gutted some fool. Now, the more serious question though, have you ever put fish in the microwave?
No comment.
You please don't tell me you're one of those people.
No, I haven't really. I did once contemplate putting like a tuna panini in the microwave.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I just ate it lukewarm.
It goes soggy.
It's got to be the ultimate office taboo.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't do it.
Top 5.
Little top 5 game, then we're going to do higher or lower. I'm going to give you a film, and we usually start with the film we are talking about, and tell you the box office takings that it had. Give you a second film, and you guys are going to tell me whether it is higher or lower at the box office. Fairly straightforward. All happy. Any need for any explanation?
No, let's get to it.
Okay, so first up, Office Space, we've just said, grossed a low 12.2 million at the box office. So I want to know, Ron Livingston, the star of the film, he also starred in, just before this film, the other weird cult hit starring Jon Favreau, Swingers. Have you ever seen the film Swingers?
Nope.
Is that the one that's got Vince Vaughn in it?
Yes, it has got Vince Vaughn in it. Yeah, you're right.
I definitely seen some of it.
Okay, so do you think Swingers grossed more or less than 12.2 million? I'm going to come to the current leader. I think it is you, Alex.
Is it?
No, it's D. D, you're leading, so I'm going to come to you first.
Higher.
You think Swingers grossed higher? Alex, do you think Swingers grossed more or less than Office Space?
More. Higher.
Okay, so you both think higher. So, Swingers grossed 4.6 million.
Oh, weird.
Did terribly. Cult film, I said cult. I'm going to give you an easier one now, guys, because the other box office star that came in here now, Jennifer Aniston, has been in loads of films. Loads of absolutely terrible films. One of the worst, Fight Me, is Marley and Me.
Can I add my first? Well,
I'm trying to think of a good...
A good Jennifer Aniston film.
Go on, do you think Marley and
Bruce
Me
Almighty.
grossed more or less than Swingers?
More, obviously. It was a massive film. D?
Yeah,
more. It has to.
Okay, yes, it grossed 247 million. I've just got to get out of the low ball. I've got to get out of the
It
low
was an
ball.
absolutely massive film.
Another star, the great Milton of Office Space. It's played by Stephen Root. Do you know what other film Stephen Root was in?
Dodgeball.
Dodgeball. Did Dodgeball gross more or less than Marley and Me, Dietrich?
Oh, I'll go higher again. Through Gritted Teeth.
Through Gritted Teeth. Alex?
I'll go lower.
One of the most quotable films of all time.
Yeah, but I'll go lower.
You're going to go lower. You're saying that with a lot of confidence.
I just feels like it would be.
It grossed $164 million. It was lower. Alex, 1-0.
But not miles away. Not massively different.
Not miles away.
No.
So next we have the great Gary Cole.
Man.
One of the most memeable stars. Not Gary Coleman. No, not Gary Coleman. Gary Cole, who was also in Dodgeball. Do you know who he plays in Dodgeball?
He plays... Oh, God.
It's a small role.
He plays someone's
He
dad?
plays the commentator at the tournament
fantastic.
alongside... what's his face?
Oh, no.
Fucking
am I thinking
Carl,
of...
fucking
Is he in Talladega Nights? Is that what I'm thinking of? Is he his dad in
He
Talladega?
is, and that's the next film we're going to
Oh,
pick,
is it?
Alex.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So, Dodgeball, 164 million. Alex, did Talladega Nights gross more or less than Dodgeball?
Oh, God. That's actually really difficult. Would have been Will Ferrell, and I think was it post Anchorman as well.
Post Anchorman, yep.
I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go lower, but I think it could be high. I honestly don't know this one. I'll go lower.
Okay, you're going to go lower.
Yeah.
D,
Get higher, baby.
Talladega Nights grossed 163.4 million. It was less by 0.6. So Alex goes 2-0 up, which means Alex wins.
Oh, my God.
D, you can't get it back. The other film was going to be Point Break, but it's not needed because Alex wins, so the score is tied again.
Who was in Point Break?
Who was in Point Break?
Other than Keanu Reeves and
what's his
Patrick
name?
Swayze.
Who we've talked about, who we keep talking about. John C. McGinley, you know, Dr. Cox?
Who's in Point Break?
Yeah, he plays one of the coppers.
It's in Wild Hogs.
It was in Wild Hogs, but
He's
unfortunately...
in Platoon, isn't he? Probably the bigger film, isn't
He
he?
is
Not
in
Wild
Platoon.
Dogs.
Everyone, I think, isn't everyone in Platoon, though? I think
He's
that's
not.
the whole point. Every single person in Platoon. I think it's Johnny Depp's first film.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that brings an end to another episode of That Song From That Movie. Let us know which song you prefer and what you think of the film on one of our many, many social media platforms. I can't remember who did this last, so I'm just going to randomly pick Alex. What is our social media handle?
It's TSF, TM Pod.
Thank you. So you can also help the podcast by sharing this on a random subreddit. But Ben, what random subreddit should everybody share this episode on this week?
Propane. Do you get the reference?
King of the Hill.
Yep.
I did not get it.
So you can also help the podcast by signing up to our Patreon, buying our merch, telling all your friends about this, or leaving a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this podcast. All the various links are in the show's notes. So all that's left now is do some goodbye. So it's goodbye from myself, goodbye, and goodbye from Alex.
Every single day that you see me, that's the worst day of my life.
They said that to me many times in my life.
Let's just be thankful this is an audio podcast only.
I know, I've thought about paraphrasing it, but didn't need it.
And goodbye from Ben.
Dang it, Bobby.
So goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Now a word from the president.
I forgot about that bit in the song. I was about to quote a line from Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster, and I was like, I don't want to get struck off.